Thank you, Chairman Rogers. Attorney General Garland, as I understand it, the Hatch Act generally prohibits federal employees from lobbying Congress on legislation while on the job. Last week, when the House was considering legislation to reform and reauthorize the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, did you or anyone in your office make phone calls to members of Congress urging them to oppose the Biggs Amendment to require the government to obtain a warrant prior to spying on American citizens through FISA Section 702? A yes or no will suffice.
The Hatch Act and the Constitution permit the members of the President's administration to speak with members who are interested in questions about the effect of legislation, just like you are asking me today about effects.
If we ask, that's one thing, but if we don't ask and you actually reach out, that's a different
That
thing.
does not violate any law of any kind.
Okay, so will you answer my question?
Yes, I discussed the vital United States interest in extending 702 with members.
How many members did you call?
I'm not going to get into my conversations with members.
I'm not asking about the conversations. I'm asking about how many members did you
I'm not
call?
going to get into that question, but I'm telling you,
Okay.
there is nothing
All right.
unlawful. This is the basic.
On March 3rd, 2024, at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Selma, Alabama, you made comments regarding our country's elections and election security laws passed by various states. Specifically, you claimed that democracy was under attack by, and I quote, discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot. Attorney General, do you believe requiring an ID to vote in a federal election is discriminatory? Yes or no?
I spoke at the
just yes or no.
iconic church from which the March for Voting Rights began.
Just a yes or no will be fine.
The answer is the Supreme Court's decision says that undue burdens on voting rights caused by voter IDs can be unconstitutional, but that
What?
the burdens, that's right, that's what the Supreme
Voter ID can be unconstitutional.
It can be, depending on the burdens and the discriminatory way in which they are taken. This is,
Okay, so do you think it's important to positively identify every voter to ensure that they are a legal voter? I think, as you called it, a legitimate voter.
no. You have to be a United States citizen. You have to meet the qualifications for to be a voter. It's important that only those people vote.
So how do you prove that? I mean, how do you prove what a person is if you don't require ID? I mean, you require ID to get on an airplane. They're not going to let you on an airplane.
I
Well,
don't know what
unless
your
you're illegal, I
experience has
guess.
been, but I have voted every year my entire life, and I've never been asked to show an identification.
I have always been asked to show
Well,
identification.
then we have, but
Wow.
somehow the democracy
So,
has gone on without.
Attorney General Garland, do you believe that illegal aliens residing in the United States should be allowed to vote in federal elections? Yes or no?
No.
All right, great. We agree on something. Other than U.S. citizens, are there any other legitimate voters?
You have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in a
You
federal
must be a
election.
U.S. citizen. Okay, great. All right. I ask unanimous consent to add this to the record, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. This is a poster found in the city, outside the city of Matamoros. It was posted around the migrant camps, and it is a poster from HIAS, the Immigrant Aid Society. And this particular poster says, the Resource Center is a 6-unit complex that is home of HIAS. And at the very bottom, it says, reminder to vote for President Biden when you are in the United States. We need another year of your mandate to stay open. That's what this poster says. Reminds illegal immigrants to vote for President Biden. So, is the Department of Justice concerned about illegal aliens voting in federal elections?
The Department of Justice is concerned about any illegalities with respect to voting. I've never seen that poster, I've never heard of that poster. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody even mention that poster.
Well, now you have. So, if any non-citizens vote in federal elections, are you going to prosecute them at the federal level?
Anybody violates the voting laws, and if there are federal voting laws, then and we will investigate and prosecute as appropriate.
All right, that's good to hear. I appreciate that. With the additional money you asked for the Civil Rights Division, I hope that you prosecute illegal voting. Now, last year you promised to provide the prosecution of crime statistics for the city of Washington, D.C. for the last 5 years. It was a question that I asked you. I have not yet received them. So I'm asking you again today, do you commit to provide these statistics, the prosecution of crime statistics for the city of Washington, D.C., Will you provide these in the next 30 days?
I'll ask my staff to get in touch with yours. I don't know what the problem is with respect to providing those. It doesn't seem like there should be a problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate your commitment to provide them, Attorney General. And my time's expired, and I yield back. Attorney General Garland, my colleague, Congressman Chip Roy, has twice requested a copy of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act prosecution data. He first asked for it in October of 2022, and then again 2 months ago on February the 16th. He has yet to receive this data, and my question to you is, when will this data be provided by the Department of Justice?
I don't know specifically about the request, but like the other request you asked about, I'm very happy to look into this.
And provide the data.
I'm sorry?
And provide the data.
Of course, if we have the
Okay,
data.
great. Thank you. I appreciate that. In the FBI's request, FY25 request, in the Department of Justice's budget, you're requesting $437.6 million for protecting civil rights. That's an increase from what I see here. Under the civil rights heading in the FBI's request, it says color of law violations are actions taken by any person using the authority given to them by a government agency to willfully deprive someone of a right. Now, since you've been Attorney General, has anyone in the government or otherwise been prosecuted for a color of law violation for denying people their Second Amendment rights? That's a civil right.
I understand that. I don't know the answer to that, but, and I have not heard that there has been that kind of prosecution.
Okay, well, since the SCOTUS decision overturning the New York law, which was the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, which denied New Yorkers their constitutional rights, I would think that there would be a case there. So I would ask the Department of Justice to look into that, because the Second Amendment is a civil right. And when people are denied that civil right, then I think under the Civil Rights Division, the Department of Justice should engage. Now, also, in last year's congressional hearing, I asked about your department's most recent congressional authorization. Has your department been reauthorized, or is the most recent authorization the one that expired in FY 2009?
I will say you taught me something about authorizations and appropriations at the last hearing that I did not know. My understanding is that that was the last authorization, the one you're talking about. Of course, the Justice Department would always like to have an authorization. My understanding is that the yearly appropriations count as authorizations, but of course, it would always be better for any entity to have a formal authorization.
Well, we're not an authorizing committee. We are an appropriating committee. It's the Judiciary Committee that is the authorizing committee for Department of Justice. So DOJ remains unauthorized, and you're running an unauthorized agency by the department, or excuse me, by the Judiciary Committee. So are you going to seek a new congressional authorization from the Judiciary Committee?
I haven't had those kind of discussions. I'll be happy to take that back and think about it. Again, given the appropriations, I've been advised that that's not required, but I'll be happy to think about it some more.
Okay, thank you, and I yield back.